Ahoy comrades, Comrade Cam here. I've returned from the abyss once more. I know I've been gone for an extraordinarily long time. I was only originally going to take a break for a couple of months because I was really overwhelmed and burnt out with all the political stuff. I'd been into quite some time online. So let's take a break. Stuff happened. I've been really busy with work, with jobs, and just dealing with stuff at work and jobs. I ended up changing industries. I went from hospitality to working into retail. My phone I was doing this on ended up getting broken. It took ages for me to get like a good new quality phone again. My great grandmother died. One of my cats got sick a couple of times, so I unfortunately had to have her put down. But on the bright side there, she was 15 and a half years old, so she did live quite a long and good life. But yeah, a lot has happened. And so it took me quite a while to get back into the frame and space of mind where I could actually get, to be doing this again, which I always wanted to, like always at the back of my mind. So here I am now. So today I wanted to talk about the death penalty. I know it's not a massive issue here in Australia, but I thought I'd still do a video about it because it is still a massive issue globally, worldwide. Out of like about 200 and something nations in the world, 92 of them still have the death penalty. So that's almost half the countries in the world, and the US being a big developed Western nation being one of the main ones. So Australia, as I said, we don't have the death penalty anymore. We abolished it in 1985, and in 2010 the government passed legislation that specifically prohibited the introduction of capital punishment. So it's gone, and it's legally enshrined in our legislation that it's not coming back. But I thought I'd do a video about it anyway because of why I already mentioned. Alright, so the rationale, why does it exist? Why does death penalty exist anyway? Well, the whole idea behind the death penalty is that it's an appropriate punishment for serious offenders to show that, what you've done is very bad. We want to show that we're tough on crime, we take it seriously. It's going to deter people from committing these sorts of crimes. And, justice needs to be done. You need to be put in your place and punished for what you've done and punished severely as what's appropriate. And this sort of attitude and mindset prevailed for quite a long time. Until in the later half of the 20th century, other countries like Australia started abolishing it and stuff, although we were a bit later on that one. So I'm against death penalty. A lot of leftists usually are. Capital punishment is usually not something we're massive fans of. And reasons why I don't approve of the death penalty is, well, going back to what I said before about the rationale for why it exists and why people are fans of it. There's a few issues I have there. One, it doesn't really deter crime at all. You look at states in the US, for example, that have the death penalty and states that don't have the death penalty. A lot of their crime rates are really quite the same. There's not really that much difference in them. And I think a couple of states, like in Texas, Florida, I think is one of them, where their crime rate is actually higher proportionately than other states that have, the same population figures as them, but don't have the death penalty. Their crime rate is significantly higher, so it hasn't really just deterred anyone there. One of the things about it is, how it reflects on society and how we treat members of our own society. Obviously, people who get the death penalty are usually people who've committed fairly serious crimes. They've been murderers, rapists, they've been serial killers, stuff like that. They've done really bad, serious stuff. But these people are still members of, our community and our society. And how we treat members of our community and society, that kind of reflects how we, as a whole society, treat some of the people who are the most vulnerable. And despite the fact that they've done horrible things, horrendous things, they certainly deserve to be punished for it. But how we treat those most vulnerable people in our society who've done bad things is kind of a reflection upon who we are as a greater society. And it does lead to things like people holding the government, the system itself, in sort of bit of contempt when they show willingness to be able to their willingness to brutalize members of their own society and community, despite the fact they've done horrible things. On it being appropriate punishment, I don't know. As a civilized society, we've kind of should have moved past that whole archaic sort of stuff, and deprivation of liberty should be enough. Locking someone away for someone's murdered someone, it's a horrible thing. They've done something really bad. Locking them in prison for 20 years, whatever the time, is that should be enough. Going to jail really sucks. There's a lot of things they don't have. They don't have their freedom and stuff like that. They don't have a lot of the things that we have every day we do that we take for granted. So I think in that aspect, that is quite, deprivation of liberty should be enough. We don't really need to be brutalizing people, even if they've done horrible things, Because the justice system, the justice should be focused upon, on justice, getting justice for victims and stuff and their families, and our society punishing people who've done the wrong thing. Where the death penalty kind of comes under the whole thing, it's more of an emotional sentence, this whole emotional sentiment of revenge and vengeance sort of thing, where the justice system, being this big state apparatus, should be kind of beyond those sort of petty notions. They should be a bit more objective and less emotional in how they deal out justice and things like that. Because you can be tough on crime without the death penalty. You can have serious sentences for people. You can give them long prison terms and stuff like that. You can be tough on crime without having the death penalty. You have serious sentences for serious crimes, and you adhere and stick to them. Sort of thing. That's how you be tough on crime without having death penalty. But then there's the whole thing, which is a whole other video in itself, which I'll only touch on briefly now. Whereas the justice system should focus on rehabilitation and not punishment, Bearing some exceptions, of course, There's some people who, can't be rehabilitated, who are beyond rehabilitation sort of thing, which is understandable. But then we have the deprivation of liberty for that, and the appropriate punishments of people, putting people away, giving them life sentences and stuff, where they basically go into jail and they're never going to get out. That should be enough, that's... I don't see why... the death penalty doesn't really bring much anything more to that. Yes, okay, so it kills them and gets rid of them, but it's it doesn't, does it stop the crime from happening? It doesn't change anything, there's people who are still off loved ones, there's people who are still dead sort of thing. It doesn't really have any benefits from there, because then we get the cost-benefit analysis is where we go from there. The death penalty, a lot of people don't realise, it's a really expensive thing. There's vast expenses incurred with the legal proceedings to go through. Keeping people locked up in prison on death row is expensive. The appeals process, which everyone has a right to appeal their death sentence thing as well, is a long and arduous process. Appeals have a really bad, notorious reputation for being really long, drawn-out processes. And they get quite expensive, especially... I listened to an audiobook recently on the serial killer, the Night Stalker, Richard Ramirez, and he killed 14 people, and he got 13 death penalties. But he spent the next 25 years on death row, gradually appealing all those cases. He ended up dying on death row of cancer, sort of thing. And that's a bit of an extreme example because he got so many of them. But appeals cases can often take years to go through the whole process. And it's costs a lot of money to do that. People in legal profession have to be paid and stuff. Legal proceedings get quite expensive. And it's to go through all that and spend all that money to do that, to put someone to death. Ultimately, what does it really achieve beyond the emotional sentiment of saying, yeah, we got our revenge? It's it doesn't really do anything apart from that. When when you can get, the satisfactory result of punishing that person, depriving them of their liberty, locking them away in jail for however long, sort of thing. And, what's done is done. Justice is found there. People are punished, and they've been punished seriously. It doesn't really have to go beyond that. So, yeah. And another thing is, it's not a massive thing, but it's still fairly significant. They found, studies in the US have found, when they've, done studies on it, have found that a pretty decent number of innocent people have been sent to death row and have been executed. So it's you can't really go back on that once you've done that. When they've found people in, they've put people away from jail for 20 years or whatever, and then they've found that person was innocent or whatever after they've been in jail for 10 years. You can compensate people for that. They can receive financial compensation for the wrongful conviction, all the shit they've gone through. That can be okay. That can be kind of atoned for to a degree. But when you've executed someone who turns out to be innocent, it's well, you can't go back on that, and you've now put an innocent person to death. So that's another thing that really complicates the issue. So, that's a bit of my thoughts on the death penalty. Sorry if it's a bit rushed and stuff. I am a little bit nervous getting back into this again. I've realised I'm speaking quite fast, but I just wanted to touch upon that topic, do a bit of a video on about my thoughts and stuff. But ultimately, yeah, I don't think we as a society really gain anything from capital punishment. It's an outdated, archaic system. A lot of the arguments in favour of it don't really work. And it's a really big, costly thing economically, socially. Sometimes a lot of legal resources and stuff as well. Things that can be spent, legal resources can be spent on other things instead of appealing all these death penalty convictions, which do take up quite a lot of resources. So yeah, that's just my thoughts on that for my first video back. It was a bit of a crappy one, but it's going to take me a couple of videos to get back into the swing of thing and get used to it more. So I'm just going to leave it at that and see you later. I'll be back soon with more videos. I've got heaps and heaps planned. See you later.